A few minutes later, we pick up 10-7 suited in the under the gun straddle while we're still playing the second stand-up game. 3 players limp in from under the gun +1, the button, and the big blind. I check. We're going 4 ways to the flop. The dealer puts out 8-3 deuce with 2 clubs. We've got a flush draw with a backdoor straight possibility. The big blind bets 400. It's over 2 times the size of the pot. I haven't played much with this guy. I'm not sure if you bet into everyone with a strong hand or go for a check raise. I have 2 players behind me who could have connected on this flop since it's a limp pot and a low board. I don't hate folding. After all, we don't even have that strong of a draw. In the corner of my eye, I see Troy reaching for raising chips while I'm still considering several options. Usually Troy's tactic of out-of-turn chip assembling is used to intimidate the person whose turn it is so that they may fold. I'm pretty sure that everyone at the table sees what Troy is doing. I call the 400 because I'm not intimidated, but perhaps to others it'll look like I'm calling with hopes of putting in a back raise if Troy indeed follows through with a raise himself. Troy doesn't like that I called. He folds. It seems my read was correct. The button folds. It's down to heads up. The turn is the queen of hearts. We don't hit. The big blind may be concerned that we have a monster. He checks. My call on the flop with 2 players behind me, while one of them was at least trying to make it seem as if he was going to raise, should have looked incredibly strong. I'd like to play into that perception by betting 700 as a semi-bluff. If we can get the opponent to fold a hand like an 8, or maybe even a better flush draw, that'd be huge for us. Even if the opponent calls, it's not terrible. We can possibly still hit a club to win. The big blind calls, we can pretty much rule out him having 2 pair or better since he didn't bet turn himself or check raises. The vast majority of the time, the opponent will have 1 pair or worse. The river is the king of diamonds. We've officially bricked and have no showdown value. The big blind checks. If he had a pair of 8s on the flop and didn't improve, he's going to hate the run out. If he had the ace or jack high flush draw, he won't like it either. I continue with our story that we've got a monster by betting 3,000. There are plenty of value hands that I could be doing this with, including 2 pair and set combos. As long as the big blind didn't river top pair with a hand like king x of clubs, we probably have a great chance of getting this through. The big blind is a very good high stakes player. He's taken his time to think about it. Over a minute goes by, and he still hasn't made a decision. I'm doing my best not to give anything away. I don't get the sense that he's strong. It seems like he's debating whether or not to fold. In my head, I'm rooting extremely hard for him to lay it down. Otherwise, we'll be stuck over $5,000 only an hour into the session. After a minute and 45 seconds that feels like 3 hours, the big blind calls and crushes me. It hurts to get caught again. We show the bluff. The opponent reveals that he made a hero call with jack 8 offsuit. He wins an $8,000 pot with 3rd pair. I have to give him credit. If he played his cards face up on the river, I probably would have made the same play and expected to fold nearly 100% of the time. Instead, I get destroyed, and to make matters worse, I'm still standing. There are only 2 of us who haven't earned our seat back when we're dealt 10-4 offsuit in the cutoff. The only other person not in a chair limps in from middle position. I can't allow him a chance to win a hand without contesting it. I call the 40. The button calls, the under the gun straddle or checks. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It's king 10-5 rainbow. We've got middle pair. Not bad. Under the gun checks. The standard bet's 200. It's about a pot-sized bet. He could be attempting to steal this. We could have the best hand, and if the 2 players behind me fold, I'll have to pay the 8 other players $100 each. I call the 200. Troy's on the button and is suspicious. He ultimately folds though. Under the gun doesn't want the stand-up game to end. He calls. 3 of us are still in. The under the gun player's call is what's concerning me the most right now. At least until the 4 of hearts comes on the turn, giving us an extremely unlikely and hidden 2 pair. Under the gun checks. The middle position player chooses a bad time to bet big. He makes it 1,300. After getting caught bluffing twice, my stack has been reduced to $4,000. I've got a strong hand, and my image is bad. Plus, it's down to heads up in the stand-up game. A jam will probably look a lot like a bluff. Perhaps I can get value out of top pair. I rip it in. If we lose, I'll feel stupid getting involved with 10-4 offsuit, and I'll be down $10,000 on the day. Under the gun isn't confident in his hand. He folds. It looks like the middle position player who overbet flop and overbet turn gets his hand caught in the cookie jar. He can't call for 2,700 more. He folds. Not only do we win the pot, we avoid losing the stand-up game and get an extra $100. As nice as all of that is, I'm still down 3,700 this session. Pocket aces might turn things around. We're under the gun +1. I raise to 100. Under the gun +2 calls. That's our boy Troy. Boston Jimmy's in the small blind. He puts in a 3-bet to 500. There's a strong play over our early position raise. I didn't start the hand with that much. I'll be in position against Jimmy the rest of the hand. I get very sneaky with a call to trap. It shouldn't be too difficult to get the rest of my stack in on future streets, and I can keep Jimmy's bluffs in, and even worse value hands. I'm worried that if I 4-bet, I won't get any action because I'd mostly only do that with aces, kings, or ace-king. Part of me wants to keep Troy in as well, despite being out of position against him. Troy folds, it's down to heads up. The flop comes ace queen 6 with 2 diamonds. We've got a hidden top set on a board that'll hopefully have connected with our opponent, though there's only one ace it's unaccounted for. If we're really lucky, we could be up against pocket queens. Jamie disappointingly checks. I want to pump up this pot, but don't want to scare off the opponent. I make a small bet of 400. Somehow this is too much. Jamie hates the flop and flashes a couple of cowboys as he folds.
Kings?
What? In my mind right away, I said, can I run kings into aces twice?
Wow,
back
that's
the same week?
That's extremely unfortunate for us. I showed Jimmy the aces before I returned the cards to the dealer. I tried to get fancy, and it backfires big time as we get too good of a flop. Jimmy doesn't beat ace, king, or queens anymore either. He makes a good fold. Nothing is going that well for me. Even when I win pots, it still feels like a loss. A while later, we play the stand-up game once more. It's down to heads up as we've got king 10 offsuit in the straddle. Troy already has a seat per the usual, yet he still opens at 300. The cutoff calls, he's already seated as well. We're closing the action and need to win to avoid paying the last man standing tax. I consult my man Wesley Snipes, who knows a thing or two about avoiding taxes. He advises me to call. That's what I do for 260 more. 3 of us are seeing the flop. It's king jack 3 with 2 spades. We've got top pair. I check. Troy is more unpredictable than the price of Bitcoin. It's always exciting to see what he's going to do until tangling with him bankrupts me. Troy bets 680. He opened from early position and is firing into 2 people on the flop with a couple of Broadway cards. Troy may have us beat, and he's not the only person that I have to worry about. Cutoff calls. Top pair with a 10 kicker shrinks down to the size of Jeff Platt. A big part of me wants to fold right now. There's no sense in wasting $680 and potentially way more to avoid paying out $800. I can't help myself. I call one time, though there are tons of bad cards for me and really no safe ones that I want to hit. Even a 10 may be bad. I don't want a spade to come either. The turn is the 8 of clubs. It shouldn't have changed anything. I check. We don't want to see lots of money going in from our opponents, otherwise we'll have to strongly consider boarding. Troy fires for 900. There's an annoying amount, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I expect the cutoff to call. I'll be getting such a good price, but there's no way to know if I'm good. Surprisingly, the cutoff folds quickly. He probably had a jack or maybe a gut shot straight draw and didn't like seeing me call on the flop behind him. With one less player to worry about, I feel slightly better sticking around. The price is just so good, I'm getting well over 4-1. I call. These are some of the trickiest spots in poker where you really don't know if you've got the best hand or not, and you're playing a big pot from out of position against the pre-flop aggressor. Things get worse as the river is the queen of spades. It's one of the worst cards in the deck. Flushes and straights get there. I check. There's no way I'll be calling a river bet. Maybe this card is better than I thought because it freezes the opponent. He checks back immediately. We get to showdown with top pair on a dangerous board. Troy shows ace-jack offsuit. He bet twice into 2 players with second pair. We've got the winner after navigating a dicey situation. It's not as if this is a massive pot for the game, but it's a big pot for me personally that helps us get closer to being unstuck. 40 minutes later, we've got 9-8 suited on the button. The cutoff raises to 100. He's perhaps the best player in the game, the one who hero called my $3,000 bluff earlier with third pair to make me question my career as a poker player. I call in position with a playable hand. Trigger to Troy isn't afraid to get involved this time. He calls from the small blind. We're going 3 ways to the flop in position. The dealer puts out 7-6-4 all hearts. We might already be drawing dead even with the gut shot. We all check. The turn is the 5 of clubs, giving us a 6-card straight. Troy must have a piece. He bets 220. That's too much for the cutoff. He folds. We almost for sure had the best hand unless Troy flopped a flush. I make a sneaky call. We already know that Troy is wary when I make aggressive raises. I don't want to scare him off with the raise here. If we can get a blank on the river, we might be able to raise for value at that point, or at least we can potentially get another bet in. It's heads up. The river is the king of hearts, putting 4 hearts on board. I hate seeing it. It's unclear whether or not Troy's happy about it. We get some indication as he bets 240. It's a very small sizing. It looks like a blocker bet. Our hand has been significantly downgraded. I'm not sure if we're best or if Troy may have some sort of small flush. Either way, it appears that he's trying to get to showdown cheaply. I'm not 100% sure that we can win with the call, but I'm very confident that Troy won't want to call a raise, and he's already made it seem like he's reluctant to play big pots with me. When you understand what your opponent is trying to accomplish with their actions, disappoint him. I announce a raise to
800.
Troy is surely disappointed as he folds before our chips hit the felt. It's possible that we had the best hand anyway. The king wasn't a great card. After being down 5,500 early on, we've done well to come back. At the moment, we're only down 1,300 and we're not going anywhere. We pick up pocket sixes in the cutoff. The player in middle position raises to 160. I call. Troy calls on the button. The straddler calls, we're going 4 ways to the flop, hoping to hit another set. The dealer puts out 9-7-4 with 2 spades, we've got third pair, but this flop smashes our range so we can have all the sets. He checks to us. Everyone at the table should be aware that I can have a lot of strong hands. I bet 300 to play into their fears. Even if we get called, we can improve with any spade, 10, 8, 6, 5, or 3. Troy calls. He's the only person that we have to worry about though. Under the gun and the initial pre-flop raise are both fold. It's down to heads up. The turn is to 8 of spades, giving us a straight draw and a flush draw. It's very possible that Troy improved to a flush, straight, or 2 pair, and I really want to see the river, so I check in order to not get blown off the hand. Troy must not have liked that card too much. He checks back. The river is the 10 of hearts, giving us the low end of the straight. We're going to bet for value and likely fold to a raise. Troy has made it clear that he prefers not to mess with us, so I'd take a raise for what it represents at face value, a hand way stronger than what we've got. I bet 900. I offer up a free ticket to Troy to take a one-way trip to Value Town. He's got water aerobics in the morning and doesn't want to skip it, so he isn't in the mood to take any trips. He folds ace-9 offsuit face up. Another good fold.
You can't get them
The best.
right? You buy
Not going to show this time though.
Get an X-ray,
We're not stupid, dude. Stupid is and stupid does.
Life is like a box of chocolates. There's an awful lot you can tell about a person by their shoes. We can go all day quoting Forrest Gump, but perhaps the most applicable one for this moment is there's only so much fortune a man really needs, and the rest is just for showing off.